So far, 2022 has been a bit of a stunner when it comes to mid-range mobiles, and here's 3 of the greatest slash most interesting that I've reviewed this year. The Nothing Phone 1 from Colpay & Co, the Google Pixel 6a, and the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G. The Nothing Phone will cost you between 400 to 500 quid depending on how much storage and memory you want stuffed inside of that bright, shiny, light-up chassis. Pixel 6a costs 399 quid on the nose, and as for the Samsung Galaxy A53, that's slightly cheaper at just 379. But the big question is, which one is best for you? Well, let's do a full side-by-side comparison, testing out the gaming chops, the camera tech, all that good stuff. I've used all 3 of these handsets as my full-time smartphone as well to really put them through the paces, give them some proper real-life testing. So enough nattering, let's crack on, and for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do poke, subscribe, and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now, when you first stack these mid-range marvels up against each other like so, you may notice that the Pixel looks a bit of an odd phone out. That's because it's decidedly dinky at just 6.1 inches versus the 6.55 inch Nothing Phone and the 6.5 inch Galaxy A53. And even though it's clearly got the chunkiest bezels of this trio, it does also feel the best in the hand. Those contours are rather palm-pleasing, and it's the easiest to use one-handed, especially as it does have a dedicated one-handed mode. You do also have a one-handed mode here on the Galaxy A53 if you need it, but no such luck on the Nothing Phone, which is also the bulkiest of the bunch. This phone is definitely reminiscent of iPhone design with its big, chunky, fat aluminium frame. The only way you can differentiate between this and an iPhone, in fact, is the lack of a ridiculous mustache notch up at the top of the screen. And then, as if it hadn't already differentiated itself from the other pair enough already, flip it around and you've got the crazy disco flashing lights back end, which is just wow. I mean, I'll give them this, it is an absolutely mesmerizing arse, although probably for all the wrong reasons. You can grab the Nothing Phone in a choice of white or black. You also have white and black options for the Google Pixel 6a, although it's also available in a kind of a pukey green sage. And it's the same again for the A53, white or black, plus a couple of more colourful options, including this lovely blue hue and a sort of a peachy finish. Of these 3, the Nothing Phone is actually the most premium as far as the materials are concerned, because you've got an aluminium frame as well as Gorilla Glass 5 front and back, so nice and durable. The Pixel and the Galaxy are both plastic around back, but I've got to say Google's done a great job with the Pixel 6a. Even though it is plastic, it does feel like actual glass. Looks just as smart as its flagship brothers. I love the two-tone effect with a slightly darker hue just above that camera bump. And speaking of the camera bump, it doesn't jut out quite as far as those previous models. Meanwhile, it's a smart but pretty simple, straightforward standard finish here on the Galaxy A53 5G with that placky back, and it's quite obviously plastic too. All the same, nothing really to dislike, and that does have Gorilla Glass 5 around front, just like the Nothing Phone, whereas on the Pixel, it is Gorilla Glass 3 around front. Of course, the Nothing Phone may be the most premium of the bunch, but it is only IP53 splash resistant as far as the water shenanigans go, whereas the other 2 here, the Pixel 6a and that A53, are IP67, so they are proper water resistant. You can give them a good old dunking, drop them in a bath, in a sink, whatever you want, pull them out again, give them a good drying off, and they'll be absolutely fine, whereas the Nothing Phone, that's not guaranteed. Now, all 3 mid-range mobiles run the latest Android 12 OS, although in quite different forms. It's mostly stock here on the Pixel 6a, whereas the Nothing Phone uses the Nothing launcher, and Samsung's own One UI launcher is slapped on the Galaxy A53. Each manufacturer is pledging a different level of software support as well. Google is winning, unsurprisingly, because it controls the hardware and the software here. The Pixel 6a will get 5 years of Android OS and security updates. Samsung comes next, 4 years of Android OS updates, 5 of the security still low, that's great. And in last place is Nothing with 3 Android OS updates and 4 years of security updates on a rolling bi-monthly basis. So still pretty solid, despite the fact it is technically in last place. As far as the basics go, similar experience in all 3. Flick this way, you've got your Google Discover feed, for instance, you've got an apps tray on all 3, and if you flick down, you've got the notifications panel. The Pixel 6a is mostly stock Android, but with a few tasty Pixel exclusive features chucked on there as well. The likes of the call screening feature and the fresh new on hold feature, which sadly I haven't had a chance to check out just yet. Go check out my full unboxing and tour for a run through all of that. As for Nothing OS, well, this is mostly just stock Android again, but this time with the Nothing skin on top, which tweaks the style and adds that glyph notification setup as well. This is essentially just a glorified notifications light with individual patterns that you can set to your preferred contacts and apps. To be honest, it's a bit pointless, the whole glyph thing, but I am kind of digging Nothing OS and its funky dot matrix styling, even if the ringtones on these Nothing wallpapers are just what? And then there's One UI, which is the heaviest launcher of the bunch, completely changing the look and feel of Android and also adding a whole bunch of extra bits in there. You do have a lot more customization options in here, which is definitely to be commended. Lots of different themes, lots of always on display options. You could even set one of your little AR emoji jobbies to be your always on display companion. One of the biggest problems with One UI is the fact you've got a whole bunch of crapware chucked on here, which is just ugh. And yeah, I am including Samsung's own apps in that because frankly, a lot of these just double down on what Google has already offered. Like the Bixby Assistant, Samsung Pay, Smart Things, etc. We've already got this stuff under Google on Android, so we don't need more of it. Thankfully, Samsung at least makes up for all the crapware, etc. by giving you tons of storage space. You've got a choice for 128 or 256 gigs of space, and you can also expand that via micro SD memory cards. You get the same choice of storage with OnePlus, but no micro SD memory card support. Here on the Pixel 6a, it only comes in that 128 gig flavor, certainly here in the UK. And again, bugger all memory card support. Boo! To actually, get into the smartphone, you've got an in-display optical fingerprint sensor on all three of these blowers, and it's absolutely fine on all three. Certainly does the job. Usually, more often than not, recognizes you first time, and then you're straight into your desktops. Occasionally, you have to tap a couple of times here on the Nothing phone, and the Pixel, the Samsung tends to work first time every time. There's no face unlock option on the Pixel 6a, sadly. Just like the flagships, apparently Google is still beavering away in the background working on a face recognition solution. Whereas here on the Nothing phone and the Samsung Galaxy A53, you do have a face unlock option. Unfortunately, I wouldn't bother with it here on the Nothing phone because it is, for want of a better description, a massive sack of cack. Seriously, just every time it acts like all my mates like, sorry, who are you? Do we know you? So let's shift on to displays, and all of these mid-range mobiles, as you kind of hope and expect, boast an OLED display. So what you can expect is nice sharp contrast, wide viewing angles, and they're all pretty bright on the top levels as well, so you can see them quite clearly outdoors. They're all Full HD plus resolution displays here, which means technically the Pixel 6a spaffs out the sharpest visuals as it is the smallest panel, just 6.1 inches versus its 6.5-ish inch rivals. As I mentioned already, sharp contrast, you got those nice deep blacks that only OLEDs can produce. You do have HDR video support as well on the Nothing phone and the Pixel 6a, but Samsung doesn't formally support HDR streaming with the Galaxy A53. But all the same, it is an absolute stonker of a display. The contrast is just as good as the others. However, as much as I love that Pixel 6a OLED display, unfortunately it does max out at 60 Hz refresh rate. In fact, it's just stuck at 60 Hz full time. Meanwhile, on its rivals, you can swap them from 60 Hz all the way up to 120 Hz for a much more silky smooth experience. And you got stereo speaker output on all three as well. Perfectly respectable if you just want to kick back with some YouTube or whatever. Although I would recommend definitely getting some headphones on the go if you want to enjoy some music. And sadly, yeah, there's bugger all headphone jack action on any of these blowers. I swear headphone jacks are going to be extinct by 2023. Now for performance, all three use a very different platform. You've got Qualcomm's Snapdragon 778G Plus in the Nothing phone, Google's very own Tensor chipset in the Pixel 6a, and Samsung uses its own Exynos 1280 in the Galaxy A53. Sadly, the benchmarking software is blocked here on the Pixel 6a as it's pre-launch, but as you can see from the Geekbench scores on these two, the Galaxy A53 is lagging way behind, especially when it comes to that multi-core score, so not good for multitasking with lots of apps. Now I've used all three of these smartphones as my full-time handset, and I've got to say the everyday experience on the Nothing phone and the Pixel 6a, perfectly enjoyable. Apps just load up quickly, you can transition between them smoothly, very rare to see much in the way of sort of stumbles and stutters. Whereas the Galaxy A53 unfortunately can be a lot more juddery, as you can see there, lots of little pauses and stumbles to contend with. Apps tend to shut down more regularly in the background as well, so you're then waiting for them to load up again. It's just quite annoying. So probably won't come as a massive shock to you that gaming on the Galaxy A53 again can be a bit of a struggle. It can just about cope with lighter titles like Call of Duty Mobile and PUBG. That's fine. Anything more intense, just don't even bother. The Pixel 6a also copes absolutely fine with your Call of Duties, your PUBGs, and it can just about get away with Genshin Impact, but it can be quite a juddery experience, even on the lower detail settings. I have found the Pixel 6a does tend to heat up rather quickly under duress, not even when gaming as well, just with multitasking with lots of apps and keeping that screen on for a good long while, so when it heats up you do see some throttling. As for the Nothing phone, well, I was pleasantly surprised by just how strong its gaming legs were. Again, Call of Duty and all that shenanigans played absolutely perfectly, screen responsiveness really good and all of that jazz. Genshin Impact also played remarkably well, even when they started to bump up the graphics settings to the more sort of the medium to higher detail settings, it still maintained a pretty smooth frame rate, so kudos to that Snapdragon 778G+. And all three of these blowers do have a gaming mode as well. It's pretty basic here on the Pixel and the Nothing phone, basically just blocks your notifications, can't do much more than that. Samsung's gaming mode is a bit more involved. You've got a priority mode, which again blocks all your notifications and dedicates all the resources to that game. You've got a couple of extra bits as well. You can see a prediction on how much battery life you've got remaining. For instance, you can open up a couple of apps in a small window. And like the Pixel 6a, you can also record your mad skills if you so desire. For your connectivity shenanigans, you've got 5G support on all three of these mid-range mobiles, and you've even got a good bit of eSIM support here on the Pixel 6a as well. Quite handy if, for instance, you're traveling abroad, your SIM isn't supported in that country, just get yourself an eSIM for a couple of days and you're sorted. As for battery life, well, you can pretty much flip reverse the results of the performance test. The Samsung Galaxy A53 has a mighty 5000 mAh cell compared with 4500-ish in its two rivals. And I've got to say, the Nothing phone was a massive disappointment in this area. It struggled to make it through a full day. Any day, basically 5 to 5.5 hours of screen on time, and this thing was wiped. So quite often before I staggered into bed in the evening, got all tucked up with Teddy, I had to give it a quick recharge just for 10 minutes or so, just to get it over that final bump. I had no such issues with the Pixel 6a. It was generally running on dregs by the end of a very long intensive day, sort of 5 to 10% left, but I didn't have to recharge it once the entire time I was using it until I got to bed. And then there's the Samsung Galaxy A53, which will quite happily last you a full day, no matter how much you hammer the thing, helped along by the fact that you can't really do much gaming on it anyway. So that Exynos processor may be crap for performance, but it seems to be pretty energy efficient at least. As for recharging speeds, well, none of them are particularly nippy, but you got 33 watt wired charging here on the Nothing phone, 18 watt on the Pixel, and 25 watt on the A53. But none of these phones actually come with a charger bundled in the box, so you'll have to provide your own either from your previous phone or actually spunk up some more cash for one. But the Nothing phone not only wins for the wired charging with that 33 watt tech, but you've also got full wireless charging built into this thing as well, 15 watts, so not particularly nippy again, but does the job. That's quite a rare feature to find on a mid-range mobile, to be fair, so good stuff. You've also got reverse wireless charging. If you've got some earbuds or something, just slap that on the back and it will suck up power direct from the phone. And finally, for this mega mid-range mobile comparison, we've got the camera tech, and it's a 50 megapixel Sony IMX766 sensor on the Nothing phone versus a 12.2 megapixel on the Pixel 6a, the same as found on the older Pixel 5a, and a 64 meg sensor slapped on the A53. All of them boast optical image stabilization for that primary camera sensor, and all of them can shoot pretty bloody good photos with some subtle and not quite so subtle differences. While the Samsung phone boasts the biggest megapixel count here, that and the Nothing phone use pixel binning, so any photos that you shoot end up around the same size, roughly the same as the Pixel. And if you look close, you will see that the detail levels are almost identical on all three of these phones in good conditions. Colours look close to natural in the Pixel and the Nothing phones, whereas the A53 loves to tweak each image to make colours look super poppy. It is certainly quite a vibe. Usually when you're shooting against a bright sky or dealing with sharp contrast, the Pixel 6a produces the best all-round balanced photo. Samsung's blower often spaffs out richer sky tones, once again boosted artificially, but the Pixel can capture more detail in those darker areas. And the Nothing phone one also does a great job, again rarely saturating a shot. And then in more ambient light, you will get softer shots with all three of these blowers, but you do also have a night mode with all three for very low light situations. And this is again the most impressive on the Pixel 6a, which produces snaps that look like they were shot in daylight, complete with strong colour reproduction. As for the alternate lenses, well, the Nothing phone, on paper at least, seems to boast the best one, with a 50 megapixel Samsung JN1 ultra-wide angle sensor compared with more basic bog standard 12 megapixel ultra-wides on the other two. In reality though, they all produce good looking shots as long as the lighting conditions are decent. Always handy if you need to pull back a bit to fit more into the frame, or you fancy a more dramatic angle. The Nothing phone and the Pixel 6a stick with just the primary sensor and that ultra-wide angle shooter as well. Here on the Samsung Galaxy A53 you do also get macro and depth sensors as well, which to be fair are mostly just there to bulk up the camera setup and make it look more impressive. Video can be cleanly captured at up to 4K resolution on each of these mid-range marvels too. Stabilization is good enough so you can move and shoot at the same time, while the picture and the audio quality is also fine for your home movies. The Nothing phone does make everything look incredibly warm compared with the others, but that will hopefully get tweaked in an update soon. As for your selfie shooters, well, those are all housed in little cutout orifices on all three of these devices. You got 16 meg here on the Nothing phone, 8 meg on the Pixel, and 32 meg on the Sammy. The Pixel 6a does struggle a little more compared with the others when I'm shooting into bright light, but they all do a bang-up job when you want to share a shot of your gun and mug online, complete with portrait mode smart. And in low light, yes, things get softer, but it's nothing too tragic. And that right there, in a lovely little nutshell, is how the Nothing Phone 1, the Google Pixel 6a, and the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G all stack up against one another. So as you can see, very different as far as the performance, the battery life, the various specs and other features are concerned, and even the general Android experience. But which one floats your boat the most? Be great to hear from you down in the comments below. To see more on any of these boards, I've covered them in depth right here on TechSpert, so just check out those videos. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe, ding that notifications bell, and have yourselves a bloody ruddy rest of the weekend. Cheers everyone, love you.